Hello there, it's Jan here from JB Crafts, and I have a new tutorial today for my Technique Tuesday series. So today it's going to be all about the gel printing plate, and this is something that I used to get asked about such a lot when I was working with Crafters Companion, especially as a mixed media artist, but it wasn't something that they sold, so it never really came into play. But I've had this one in my stash for a very long time, and I love making backgrounds, as you know, with my inks, and this is just another way of actually making backgrounds for your card making projects or scrapbooking or journaling, anything like that. Now traditionally I have seen a lot of tutorials using acrylic paints with these, but as you know, I absolutely adore my Distress Oxide inks, and again, these will work perfectly, and this is what I'm going to use today with the gel plate. So just for those of you that aren't familiar with this particular product, again, I've had this one a long time. This is actually a Jelly Arts product, and it's a weird piece of equipment. It is like a lump of jelly, for want of a better word, and it comes with two protective pieces, one on the front, one on the back, and I always put these back on and put it back in the packet, because the last thing you want is for it to dry out. So if I actually take one of these off, it's a very sort of, it's like a slab of, the only way I can describe it is like set firm jelly, and it's got mineral oils worked into it, which is what allows you to create the pull with the medium. So whether it be paints, whether it be inks, whether it be alcohol inks, you can do so many different things. I am just going to focus on the oxide inks today, but if anybody is interested in seeing more on this particular type of crafting, let me know in the comments below, and I'm more than happy to sort of dig my acrylic paints out and show you with those. It is very much the same process as what we're going to do today, just using the different mediums. Once you get the idea behind how this works about pulling a print, then the mediums are pretty much sort of the same. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my silicone mat again, just to protect the work surface, and I'm just going to invert this onto here, and it will stick nicely onto the mat there. And I'm going to take off that other protective piece, so I've got my gel bit exposed now. And then I've got a selection to my right here of inks that I'm going to use, just to show you what I'm going to do. I've also got cleaning materials with me. It is quite a messy technique, this, so I've actually got my water spritzer. We're going to use that along the way. I've got my baby wipes to hand, because I'm going to definitely need some of those. I'm going to get a couple of those out at the ready. We do need sort of some means of cleaning things up, including me. I did consider putting the gloves on again, but they are a little bit restricting. So I'm just going to have to put up with getting inky fingers today. I'm also going to bring in my brayer. Now mine's actually a speedball brayer. It's like a soft rubber, and this is the one that I use for all my crafting. You can see it's had different colours on it. It's just stained the roller, but it is clean, it is dry, so we're going to be using that. And then I'm actually going to pull my prints just simply onto photocopier paper. So this is just inexpensive photocopier paper that I buy by the ream in one of my local supermarkets, what I put through my printer, and I've just cut it down to a size that's manageable to work over my gel plate. Now these come in lots of different sizes. Mine just happens to be 6x6. You can get long rectangular ones, you can get shaped ones. I do have some of those in my stash, but this is the one that I normally go to for backgrounds. So yeah, I've got a stash of paper ready, because you can get really carried away with this, and I'm going to put one of those down at the side of me just as a clean off piece. And even the clean off pieces you'll find that you can use for this technique. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off very, very simple, and we're literally just going to pull a print. So I'm going to pop some ink on, spread it out, and pull a print, just to show you the technique behind it. So if I just grab a couple of my colours that go together here, you can do this all in one colour. I just chose to go with a couple of different colours. So I've got Salvage Patina, and these are the oxides. You can do this with the inks as well. So again, I'm just going to pop this down onto the gel plate. Now I wouldn't go with a permanent ink. These are all water-based products that I'm using because it will clean up nicely. You may find that you get some staining if you use a permanent ink. And then all I'm going to do is add the darker one, the Uncharted Mariner. So these are both really nice shades of teal onto the bottom section there. So nice good coating on there. Pop my inks to one side, and then I'm going to take the brayer next. And I want a really light touch, and I'm going to go across and back, starting at the top and working my way down to sort of blend this. But you want the roller to spin. So I'm not going to push it along and keep it on here. I want to spin it backwards and forwards in this motion like this. So I'm going to start at the top, really light pressure. But what I'm actually wanting to do is get rid of those ink pad marks. You can see how that's smoothing it out. And then I'm coming into the darker shade. And I'm just going to move up and down a couple of times to blend those two pieces together. And then come right down into the base. So that's all I'm going to do on the plate, and now I've got all that ink on here, so this is where the clean off piece comes. So I'm just going to take the majority of my ink off onto here. I've got that darker stripe because I'm leant over my my mat here, and just get rid of some of that ink off here, and then we can clean the brayer in due course. So before this dries too much, I'm just going to take a piece of my copier paper. I'm going to pop it right over the top. And then I'm just going to add some gentle pressure here. Just on the top. Just feeling around the edges of where that 6-inch square is. I can see the darker ink here starting to come through. And then once you're happy that you've got all that paper, and there's no air bubbles underneath it, then you can literally pull your print. And it transfers the ink beautifully onto your paper. Now to use this, I do normally back this onto something, and I tend to go with some of the older scrapbook papers that I've got. So there always seems to be something in a pad that you're not so keen on. I keep all those together separately, and I usually use them to back this on when I'm going to use it. So you know, you can use it as a 6-inch square, you can cut it into strips, you can die cut, it makes beautiful flowers and things like that. But that is just simply a straight pull from the gel plate itself. So while we've got that blue out, I'm going to pop that one to one side. They're fairly dry as well when you fetch them off. While we've got that blue out, I'm going to do the same again with the same two colours for the second one. So we're going to add that salvage patina at the top there. So I'm just sort of giving it a good coverage. And then I'm also going to put the Uncharted Mariner back at the bottom there. And then we're going to even it out again. So because this has already got the ink on it, I'm just going to make sure that there's not too much of the dark ink on there. Just give it a little bit of a rub with my cloth there. And then I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to start at the top here, really light. That's sweeping backwards and forwards over that darker area, and you can see where it gets rid of those stamp impressions, and then bring it all the way down to the bottom. And then this time I'm going to pop a little bit of water at the side of my mat here, and I'm just going to take a very small, this is a number 1 round brush, and again, because these are water reactive inks, very lightly I'm just going to tap some little water splats on here, just a few like so. Take that excess off here so that I don't lean in it, and then we're going to do the same again. We're going to take the paper, we're going to pop it down, and again I'm going to have to take my mat into place. I meant to get my splash mat out and I forgot, so let me just pop a little bit of tape on there to stop that one wiggling about so much. There we go. So again, just light pressure on here all over. I tend to use the palm of my hand as well as my fingers, just to make sure that all that paper has made connection with the gel plate so that there's no air bubbles underneath. And again, we're going to pull that print off nice and carefully, but this time you're going to get some of that lovely watermarking in here. So that was number 2. So just a straight pull and then the watermarking. You can actually spritz this. In fact, we'll do this. We'll do it on the back of this piece. You can spritz this very gently because I can still see there is a little bit of ink left on there. So we'll just do it on the back of this one as an extra. And again, I'll use my cloth so that I'm trying my best not to get covered in ink. I am actually popping out later, so I don't particularly want inky fingers. But we can just see whether there is any more. You'd be surprised. There is just a very faint bit come off there. Not a lot, but just a little bit. So I've got that side to use if I wish. And then as far as just making sure this is clean, I tend to use my wipes just very, very gently, just over the surface, and make sure, because I'm going to change colour inks now, so just make sure. And you can see that there is still a little bit of residue there. I'm also going to brayer off that ink. And these actually make great backgrounds as well. So where you've done the brayering off here, don't get rid of these, because these are great for, again, backing. And then I would actually possibly make flowers and things like that out of it, or die cut sentiments out of it. So I'm just going to give my brayer a quick wipe off with the baby wipe there. Get rid of that. You see, I'm already covered in blue ink. I set off with all good intentions, and we're going to end up with inky fingers no matter what. And then I'm just going to take any residue off with my microfiber cloth there. And then we're going to go for some different colours this time. So what I'm going to bring in is a variety of things that you can use with your gel plate. So let's just turn that one over now so that I can use the other side. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually bring in some stencils. So I'm actually going to use a heart stencil to start off with, and I'm going to bring in a nice pink for this one. So I'm literally going to use a little bit of worn lipstick, and I'm going to put this all over. So rather than using 2 colours on this one, I'm just going to use 1 shade. We've got the worn lipstick, which is a nice shade of pink for the hearts. You may want to do it in red, entirely up to you. You've got all those different colours to work with. And each time we add the ink, it's the same process. Very light pressure, spinning that roller from side to side over the ink to make sure we've got it nicely spread out. Take off the excess. I'm going to leave that because we're going to do a little bit more with it. And this time I'm going to put my stencil straight on top of the actual ink. And then I'm going to take a sheet of paper, 2-fold. I'm going to use it to press the stencil into the gel plate. I'm also going to pick some of the ink up that's showing through the stencil. So for this first one, we're going to get more than 1 impression out of this. So I'm literally holding the paper in place and applying some pressure sufficient for the stencil to make contact with that gel plate, and sufficient pressure to push the paper through the stencil and actually create some pattern on this side. So this is literally what you would get if you'd stenciled through the actual design. So that's the first one off there. Then I'm very gently going to lift the stencil off of the gel plate. Now I'm going to leave this to one side because this is covered in ink now. So we'll just pop that to one side for a second and I'll come back to that. And then I'm going to take my next sheet of paper. And you can see now why I use copy paper instead of cardstock, because it will go through quite a bit of card. And I'm going to put this one down and again apply that same pressure again. You'll get used to how you don't need to press too hard. You're not trying to stick the paper to the gel plate. You just want to make sure that all of that surface has made contact and not left any air bubbles. And then when we pull this, we're going to get the negative space. All right, so this was actually under the stencil, so you can see we've got a positive and a negative. Now they would look great used together. You know, you could do part of your card in this one and part of it in this one, especially with the same colour ink. Now there may be a little bit of residue on here again, but I'm not going to pull it again. What I am going to do is just clean this one and then I'm going to work with the stencil. So just to take a little bit of that excess off here, and again I tend to just go both ways to make sure I've got the excess ink off. And now we've actually got a lot of ink going on the other side. This is the side that was face down. So again, I'm just going to give a very light spritz onto that ink, and I'm going to take another one, and we can pull it, and you'll find yourself thinking, oh yeah, I can get one out of there, I can pull a print off that, oh I wonder if that would work. And honestly, if you'd have one of these, get it out, have a go. You know, if you want to just have an afternoon making backgrounds and then keep them all together so that you've got something to work on, you can stamp on top of these, you can emboss them, you know, you can die cut from them. And again, very, very watery effect, but as a base to start working on top of with other things, it's again not wasting that ink on there. So we've got that one, and then I am just going to clean. You could probably get another one off here, but I am just going to use my wipe and clean that excess off the stencil there. Leave that one to dry and put that to one side to dry. Again, just make sure that my plate hasn't picked up any of that ink, and then we'll go on to the next technique. So the next one is actually going to be using a stencil again, but slightly different this time. So I've got a different stencil just to show you a couple of variations. This one's just got some really nice floral pattern on it. So what I'm going to do this time is, first of all, I'm going to change the ink colour. So we're going to go for Wild Honey and Crackling Campfire this time. I've just got a little bit of wet on there which has attacked my colour. So this time I'm actually going to put Wild Honey all over. Now this is actually quite a strong yellow. So again, you have choices here. If you want a really bold print, you can do what I call a first generation pull, which is the very first one you take off. If you want something that's a little less bright, then we can do a second generation, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pop the roller on to spread out that ink, just applying enough pressure that it's getting rid of those square markings from the ink pad. Nice and light. And I'm actually going to pull this print off because I don't want it to be too bright. So that first one, you're going to get a really nice solid print off here, like so. So we're just going to get a really nice, that's a lovely yellow, the Wild Honey there. So you could work on that, you could stamp on top of this, whatever. And now I have got some left on here, and this is where my stencil comes in now. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add, let me have a think. I'm going to pop, should I pop my stencil straight on? No, I'm going to pop some Crackling Campfire on top of here now. So I'm going to go, yeah, straight over the top. Like so. There is a little bit of that Wild Honey underneath, but there's not enough to contaminate my ink pad. Again, I'm going to leave the yellow on here. I'm not too worried about the mixture. Gives me a nice tone. A little bit of that yellow showing at the top and then going down into here. And then we're going to pop the stencil. So pretty much what I did last time. Stencil over the top like so. And then we're going to take a print off there to get rid of some of that ink. So again, holding it in place. So this is virtually what we did with the hearts, but then I'm going to actually apply what's left to that print that we pulled in the yellow. So again, just pressing it to get sufficient pressure into that stencil. And you can see there that we've got just a little bit of outline going on. You know, it may be what you want. You may feel that that's not worth keeping. That's entirely up to you. And then I've also got ink that's left now on my actual stencil underneath. So I'm going to pull this one off. And we've created that lovely pattern. Again, you've got plenty of ink here that you can work with if you wish. But what I'm actually going to do is bring that yellow back in, and I'm going to replace this over the top. So I've actually got the yellow in the background, and then we're going to have the relief from that stencil over the top. So there'll be little bits of yellow showing underneath with the orange over the top. So again, you can see, you know, we've got that yellow in the background there, and we've got that darker orange over the top. You could have done this the other way around. So yeah, lots and lots of different ways to play with it. And then again, if you wish, you can actually pop this one back on here. I'm just going to give it a little spritz, just purely because it's been sat there for a second or two, and it's very warm in here at the minute, so I don't want the ink to dry. And again, you know, you can actually use this one. So I'm just going to clean off the excess off my brayer, and then I'm just going to use the brayer across the back of here just to give a few swipes, just to make sure that it's all made contact with the stencil. And again, you'll get a much more abstract effect here, but again, from the point of view of stamping over the top of it, if this is what you wish, it's a way of using the ink without actually wasting it. And then again, just for the purpose of today's video, I am going to take the excess ink off here, and then these normally all go in the sink when I've finished and give them a nice good clean up in some soapy water. So we'll take that one off, put that to one side. Again, make sure that my gel plate is clean of ink, because we're going to flick onto another technique now. And again, just going to make sure we've got rid of all that orange and yellow ink. And I'm also going to make sure that it's all gone off my roller. Okay, and then I'm going to change my piece of paper. I've got blue this side if I want it, I've got that pink and orange if I want it, and I tend to keep all these as well. We'll get another piece for cleaning off, and then this time, let's have a look, what shall we do this time? We're going to bring in some speckled egg, and I'm actually going to fill the gel plate again. So you can see how this works now. This technique is the same, applying the ink, and it's exactly the same if you want to use acrylic paint. You'll just pop 2 or 3 blobs of acrylic paint on and spread it out with your roller, just the same as I'm doing. I just prefer to work with my inks. So again, spread it out like so. I'll take it this way just for a change, just to get rid of some of those markings at the edge. Yep. And then I'm actually going to use a stamp. So I've got a text stamp this time. This is actually a Creative Expressions French script, so it's not really legible. And what you need to remember when you're using anything that has lettering or numbers on is that it will actually come out the wrong way round, because we're actually going to print it on here and then reverse it. So anything that has letters, numbers, wording on, it will read backwards when you pull your print. But all I'm going to do is just very, very gently place that stamp over here, and what it's doing is lifting some of that ink off the gel press, and I'll show you in a second. You'll be able to see a little bit of it on. You can just see where it's core areas of the stamp. So I'm just going to rub it off there, because I don't want it to stay on my stamp. That's done its job now for a second. And then we're going to take that print, and this time we'll have that lovely black background, but we'll have got that little bit of sort of hint of text in there. So again, pull this back, and you can just see how you've got, it fascinates me, this. You'll never, very, very rarely repeat the same thing twice, but you can just see where we've got, and because it wasn't particularly a legible script to start with, it's not obvious that that one's back to front, but it's there as a background. Now I'm going to do the same again with the same ink. So we'll pop that speckled egg, which is a really pale, almost duck egg blue, all over that gel plate again. We're going to spread it out with the roller. So you can see that this part of it is very repetitive. Once you've mastered how to get that ink on there, world's your oyster. There we go. And then this time I'm going to take a brown ink, so this one's frayed burlap, and I'm actually going to ink up my stamp this time with that oxide ink. So I'm literally going to pop it all over the back of my stamp, and I'm going to press it into here again. So we're going to go pretty much from one side, and again, you only need light pressure here. All you want to do is transfer that text, so just light pressure onto there and lift, and then I'm going to re-ink, and we're going to pop this at the bottom so that I've got pretty much a full page. It's a little bit off one side and a little bit off the other because my stamp's not quite as wide as the plate, but I'm okay with that. So again, gentle pressure. I'm wanting to transfer the image of that script onto the gel plate, and then we're going to pull that print again. So this time we're going to have that lovely speckled egg background, but instead of the clear script that we had on this one, because we'd pulled the ink away and there was nothing underneath it, this time it's going to have the coloured script over the top. So again, you can do this in any colourways depending on what your project is, and I think this one's one of my favourites. You can see how you've got that script now, and it's created that brown impression into the script rather than the lifting the ink off and making it white. So again, I'm going to clean off that brayer again, just on the clean off sheet. Make sure we've got the surplus ink off here. And again, just make sure that there's nothing hanging about on here, because I'm going to change my ink colours again. And we'll just give this, there's not much left on there this time, so I'll just give it a little dust over. I think there is a little bit, I can just see a bit of ink on there. So again, just the water on there, sufficient to take that off. So I'm going to swap ink colours again. I've actually got a pink and a green this time, so we're going to pop pink at the top, like so, and then I'm going to put the green at the bottom. So this one was saltwater taffy and bundled sage, so two nice pinks and greens always look nice together. If you think about red and green being complementary colours, and the pink is a tint of your red, so you're not going to go wrong where these two colours are concerned. And again, I'm going to start at the top, just working on that pink layer, bring it down towards the green, and where the two overlap, I tend to just go backwards and forwards a couple of times to get a really nice blend on that division, and then just bring it down to the bottom. And this time I'm going to bring in an embossing folder. So just any embossing folder will work for this, and you want technically the underneath side. So if I was putting my card in, I would put my card here with the recess at the front, but I want the bumpy side. So this is actually the side that would normally push up into your card, and all I'm going to do is lay this on top, and again just apply some gentle pressure to make sure that this has all made contact with the gel plate there. Okay, and then lift it straight off, and you might be able to see there, you can see where the ink's lifted, and we've got that beautiful impression on here. So I'm going to take my paper again, and we're going to lift, and there is this is not a full list of things that you can do. There was so much that only so much I can fit into one video. I'm not actually going to make any cards in this particular video. I am literally going to keep it as techniques. I have got some samples to show you at the end, but as far as making them was concerned, I just thought it was going to make it go on too long. So again, you can see that ink underneath, and you can see the relief. There's also these really interesting little splodges where I've actually pressed a bit harder, and the back of the embossing folder has made contact with it, which I don't mind. Again, it all looks distressed, and again, these would make great backgrounds. I'll show you how I've used some of these. So again, we have got ink on here, so you could actually spritz this and take the ink off here, but I am going to clean this one up because I'm just conscious that it is going to be quite a long tutorial, quite a long video today. So I'm just going to take, again, because these are water based, just take off that excess, and this will probably go in the sink along with the stencils when I finish, just to make sure that there is no residue left on there. And again, give it a dry, flop it to one side. Okie doke. So let's have a look, what else can we do then? So we'll make sure that this is clean first of all. Again, just take off that excess. And I tend to go one way and then across the other way just to get rid of that excess. I am going to make sure that the inks left my brayer again. Just give that a clean. And then I've got a couple of other extras to show you. So you can actually use your die cuts to do this. So if you've got any die cuts hanging around, so it may be leaves, anything like that. I've actually used some flourishes on mine here. So I'm just going to move the paper out the way for a second, and I'm going to bring in some greens this time, because I've used like a leafy flourish. So I've got twisted citron, and I'm going to put that down first, and I'm going to do this one in 2 stages again. So I want this one on first, then I'm going to brayer this out to smooth it out like so, and we're just going to pull a straight print off this one. So I'm just get my paper, and I just want to take a layer of twisted citron off here as a background, and then we're going to work on top of it again with a different shade of green. Okay, so I'm going to take that one, absolutely gorgeous. You can see how you get that lovely ombre effect on it. Pop that to one side for a second, and then I'm actually going to take some peeled paint, which is sort of a darker version of the same green there, and I'm going to cover the whole thing with that and spread it out again, just like we did before. And again, because it's got a little bit of the ink on, but I'm not too worried. Again, I'm going to start at the top there, take it down to the bottom, and then this time I've got a series of little die cut flourishes that I've cut out. Okay, and all I'm going to do is lay these randomly, just turning them and pop them down onto my jelly plate. So I'm just being really careful not to catch the ink. So I want to sort of turn them, twist them, so that they're literally in slightly different positions. And again, as much as little as you wish here. And you can see that one can fill the corner. And then we're going to take our paper. I'm going to lay it over the top. And again, I'm going to use the brayer this time, because I've got things underneath that I don't particularly want to move. I'm actually just going to run my brayer over the top, like so, just to make sure that those die cuts have all made contact with the gel plate, and then they've done their trick. So this one's going to come off, and we're going to get a really interesting design with that one. And then I'm going to take these little die cuts off the top here. So again, I'm just going to pull them off. It's a great way of colouring them as well, because these will now have picked up some of the colour from the gel plate. You see we've got nice little green die cuts now. So you could actually do something with those. So again, just gently take those off. I'm going to put all those to one side. I just want to pull them up nice and gentle, and literally take those off to one side. Okay, and then we're going to pull another print, and we'll have the relief image again. So whenever you do this twice, you're going to get one area where it takes sort of the background away, and then your second pull you will get the relief part of it. So again, I'm going to pop this one on. Just because that ink's been on there a while, I am going to use the brayer again on the back of here rather than my hand. Just applies a little bit more pressure. And again, when we pull this one, we've got that interesting relief pattern. So this was the background, and then you've got that relief again. So again, 2 different ways with the die cuts. And let's have a think. We'll go again. We'll go just clean this off for a little bit. And then I'm going to change colours again. So we'll just clean everything up. And you'll be amazed at what kind of things you can use on here. So again, get rid of that green. I'm going to change colours again. I'm going to get rid of a little bit of this. You see, I did say at the beginning, I did give you a disclaimer that it was a messy technique, this one, but I always say you haven't had a good day if you're not covered in ink at the end of it. So just cleaning that brayer up again, because I'm going to swap my inks out again, and I'm going to go for a really nice purple this time. So this one is Villainous Potion, one of the newer colours, and it is the most beautiful purple. Again, I'm going to cover the whole sheet like so. The whole sheet, the whole plate, should I say, with the ink. I'm going to spread it out again, just nice and gentle. And then think about what you've got lying around, any kind of household objects. You can put rubber bands around your brayer and roll that across. You can put string on it. I just happen to have got a little bit of bubble wrap here, packaging, so I'm just going to lay that with the bubbles face down. And again, just very light pressure. Anything that's going to make an impression on your gel plate. Now, the only thing that I would add to that is don't use anything sharp, because if you damage the surface of your gel plate, you're going to have that mark in it indefinitely, and all your prints that you pull will echo that mark. So again, I'm going to pull this off, and you may just be able to see, you can see the ink on here, but you may just be able to see on here that we've got that gorgeous pattern. I love this one. I must admit, this is so simple, but it makes a really effective background there. So let's just have a look. There we go. And then we can pull this off again and just look. You know, on the back of a card, people would be like, how on earth? Is it a stamp? What have they done? How have they done that? Absolutely gorgeous. So again, it can work on any colour. So we'll put that one with our pile of backgrounds. And I think I'm going to leave it at that for today. There are other, as I say, this is not an exhaustive list. There are lots of other things that you can do. But I'm just looking at all the things I've got at the side of me here. And I think we've gone through the majority of what I wanted to show you. So we'll have a look back through some of them that I've done today. And I'll show you the ones that I did when I was having a play yesterday. I'll just give that a clean, and we'll move this out of the way. So I always put this back with my protective layers on and keep it in the packet. You don't want to get dust on these, and you don't want bits settling on them, as I say, and damaging the surface of the gel plate. I do use both sides of it, so there's no right and wrong side. So again, pop that on there, and then I usually encase it back in here so that I know it's nice and safe, it's clean, it's not going to get damaged, and it's ready for use next time. So my Jelly Arts gel printing plate is what we've used today. We'll just clear up some of the bits and pieces. I'll get rid of that purple off there. Again, just take some of that excess ink off. And dry that one off. That one's good to go. You can see it comes up every time. The stuff that's already on it is staining from previous use. It's where I've had paints and things on it. So I've only got the one brayer. I use that for all my bits and pieces. Put that to one side. We can get rid of all those bits. I can get rid of my mat now. Put that to one side. Just take the tape off there, and then I'll show you where we've got to with all the designs and the ones that I did yesterday. So we've got a few similar. These are what we've done today. So we started out simply with a couple of inks and just pulled a print off there. We did the same couple of inks and added some water splats to it. And then we started with the stencils. So we started off taking the relief off the stencil and then the background here. We had that left on this stencil, so we added a little bit of water and we've got that lovely blurry watercolour effect. This was the yellow print, which was a straight pull, and then adding the orange over the top with another stencil. We did the script stamp into the speckled egg, and then we did the script again, which had been inked, into the speckled egg. And then we had that embossing folder pressed into there, the die cuts. So first of all, taking the die cuts off and then pulling the print that was left. And then the last one was that bubble wrap there. So let me just have a look and see if there's anything different to what I did when I was practicing the other day. I popped those to one side, and I've got a stash on here, which are ones that I was doing. A lot of them are the same because I've gone through pretty much the same technique. So you can see I started off straight pull with the salvage patina and the uncharted mariner, and I did the same. I add a little bit more water to that one. You can see I've got a few more spatters on that one. That was the relief from the stencil print itself, and the relief. That was my plain yellow, and then I popped it back on again, second generation yellow, and did the campfire, the crackling campfire. And then this one was actually just taking what was left off the stencil onto my actual, this was the sheet that I'd been rollering my inks off onto. So you can see, you can incorporate those in as well. This was just taking it straight off the stencil with a little bit of water spritz. You can see that text stamping on the speckled egg and the brown there. This was the embossing folder pressed in. And again, I got that relief from there when I'd taken the embossing folder off. This was a different embossing folder. I didn't do this one today. This was like it's almost like a metal grid on this one. I've had this in my stash for a while, and I popped some grey ink down first, pulled the grey, and then I inked up the embossing folder here with my purple ink and pressed that into it, and then pulled the design off that one. You can see where I was playing with those flourishes again with the peel paints. This one's got the twisted citron behind it. I've got a couple of relief designs here where I've just what was left on the gel plate. I did it with the flourishes around the edge of the ink. This one was an accident. This was actually laying down the peeled paint to do this technique with the flourishes, but I forgot to brayer it. You can see the squares from the ink pad where I'd popped it all over, but I actually quite like that, so I've kept that one because again it's a different finish. Normally I would brayer it out to make it smoother, but I do like how that worked. And then I've used a paper doily. You can see where I've got the purple ink on here where it's lifted. A little bit of water splatting around the outside just to leave an impression again, and this was actually with a different colour underneath it, so we've got a bit of shaded lilac with the Villainous Potion. And then this is a couple, I've saved these two. I'll show you what I've done with these because I did actually make a few cards with pieces of these just to show you how you may want to incorporate them in your designs. So the first one that I did, this was actually pretty much the technique. So this is my card, and a couple of things that we actually did to get to that point. Let me just grab these. I've got a die cut in there. Just move some of this out of the way. So the background is a gel press print. Okay, so I've gone for those original colours with the salvage patina and the uncharted mariner there at the top and the bottom. And then what I did is I just used some of my sticky notes with a circle die cut and just cut some of these out. And all I've done is pop this on before I added the inks. I've popped this onto the gel plate, then I put the inks on, then I braided it out to make it nice and smooth, and then used that same text stamp that we were using earlier and pressed it into the bottom before I did the pull. So that was the first one, and then I decided that I wanted to add some water splatters in again. And again, you know, I get things wrong. I don't do it right every time. I got so eager with what I was doing with this one that I actually forgot. The first time round, I removed the mask so that you got this lovely clear, what could either be the moon or the setting sun, whichever you prefer. On the second time round, when I'd done my water splatters, I actually forgot to take the mask off, and you can see where it's picked up some ink from the mask, but I actually quite like that effect as well. And then I recreated it for my card blank here, and I just used a little bit of antique linen to fill in the moon at the back. And then this is actually a die cut again. I'm not sure which collection this is from because I've altered the way that I store my things now, but it just cuts out this really nice kind of, as I either say, moon or sun. So that one's done in silver satin card. This one was done in gold and stamped out a sentiment. I've actually added a little bit of decoration down the side, and again this was actually my clean off sheet. So all those pieces that I kept earlier, and just find the blues, you can see here where I've got those clean off pieces. Keep these, and again I've just cut a few of the hexagons with my nesting dies, popped some of them through an embossing folder to give it a bit of texture, and then added the pearls on there. Of course, I've not done the insides of these today. I just wanted to show you how you could use some of those backgrounds. So that was the first one. The second one was using that bubble wrap technique. So I've just done mine on the purple. If I just find that purple one that we did right at the end there, I've just used that with the purple ink, and I did it again with some Victorian velvet ink. And again, you can see that my card's actually deeper than the 6x6 inch gel plate print. So all I've done is cut it in the middle here, cut it down to fit my card, cut it across the middle, stretched it, and then I've covered it with that band there. And I've just used some die cuts on there to add to that. Those are a Tim Holtz. I used the wildflowers again. I had the wildflower set 2 the other day. This one's actually the set 1, and it's got some beautiful, beautiful blooms in here. I used this one, and I've just put a silver one and a coordinating pink on there. So that was that one. Running out of places to put things now. And then the third one, this was actually the background with the embossing folder. So where did I put everything? This one here. So this was actually the pink, the saltwater taffy. I did a whole pull with the saltwater taffy, and then added the green, the bundled sage, to my embossing folder on that bumpy side, impressed that into the gel plate, and then pulled the print a second time. So I put the pink back over the top. What it's done, it's inlaid the green over the top of it there, and again just a different look on there. And then I've just added some embellishments, sentiments, flowers, the little ticket in there, and I popped the green in it because I'd used the pink and the green in the background. So a little 6x4, that one's a 7x5, and this is a 6x6. So just a few ideas of things that you may want to do with the backgrounds. And like I said, because I use copier paper, I've got lots of offcuts of pieces of scrapbook paper. So I tend to just use these to back the pieces of copier paper. So cut it to size, pop this on the back and stick it down, and it will just make it a little bit more substantial because this is quite flimsy. So that's how I sort of counteract that. If you want to use card, you can actually use a smooth card, a Nina cardstock, or a smooth stamping card to pull. It is very, very addictive, and you'll find that you can see how many I've done over the last couple of days. There was the original batch and the ones that I've done for you just now. You know, it's a lot of cardstock, that's all I'm saying. So that's why I tend to use the copier paper, and then I've just adhered this to a scrapbook paper on the back, and you wouldn't know that it was anything different. So I hope you've enjoyed that today, a little bit of something different. As I say, if you'd like to see more on the gel plate, let me know in the comments, and I will see, not necessarily straight away, but in the future we'll see if we can add in some more different ideas of things that you can do with it, possibly different mediums other than the oxide inks, and we'll have a play around with it. So that's all I've got for you today. Please give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed that video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I would very much appreciate your subscription there. It all helps with the channel and how it's going to move forward. And I'll be back very, very soon with another tutorial for you. So bye bye for now.